Good day and welcome to the first module on the session brand management. And this course also has coverage of digital marketing. I request all of you to go through the course coverage details, which are given in a separate video. That will give you an idea of what we'll be covering in this course. Let's try and understand what we'll cover in module number 1. This is an introductory session. So what we look at is two things. We are starting our discussion on what are the metrics for measuring the performance of a brand. And what we'll first look at in this session are, number 1, what exactly is a brand? More specifically, we'll look at how it is viewed differently by different stakeholders. Number 2, we'll look at what exactly is the role of a brand manager. What exactly does he or she do in an organization? That will be the coverage for the first module. Welcome to module number 1. So what we're going to cover now is the metrics of measuring the performance of a brand. How do we say that a brand is doing well? How do we find out areas where the brand can improve? What is the format of this data? Who supplies this data? More importantly, how do we interpret this data? And how can this data be used for fine-tuning your strategic and tactical decisions as a brand manager? That, in short, is the focus of this session. Please raise your hand when you wish to go. I have 2 questions. Question number 1, what is a brand? Number 2, what does a brand manager do? Let's start with the first question. What is a brand? What is a brand? Please raise your hand when you wish to go. Yes, Mahip.
Brand is something, the value to which my customers relate to.
Brand is a value my customers relate to. Good. Anybody else wants to add to that? Value which my customers relate to. Any other definition of a brand? What is meant by a brand? What comes to your mind when I say brand? What comes to your mind when I say brand? Please raise your hand. Yeah, Debashit.
Maybe like one product which is well known to everyone, almost maximum customer knows it. So that is the thing that comes into mind when I hear about some brand name.
So that's similar to what Mahip said, no? It's a value derived by a customer. Is that what you're saying, Debashit?
Actually, sir, I was saying maybe that brand is well known to everyone, but like the product could be the same, but one brand.
But it is well known. Why? It's well known because of the value it gave the customer. Am I right? That's exactly what Mahip mentioned, right? Yeah, Siddharth.
Sir, it is a projection of the company. It is basically what the company stands for.
Projection of what the company stands for. Can you be more specific?
So it's the projection of the company basically, and on top of that, what I meant to say is it defines what the company stands for. So basically, company is able to portray itself in a certain way to the customer.
Company or the brand?
So through the brand, the company is able to portray itself.
So how, no, let's take Liril. How is Hindustan Lever portraying itself through Liril?
Okay.
You won't know, right, Siddharth? It's the brand is distinct from a company. Am I right? Have I answered the question, Siddharth?
Got it. Sir.
Right?
Sorry.
Yeah. Have I answered the question? Right? So unless it is Tata Steel, because Tata Steel, the company is the brand, right, Siddharth? But if you look at Fiamma Wells, I mean, how many people know Fiamma Wells is from ITC, right? Have I answered the question? Yeah, Ritika.
Sir, I feel that a brand is something which adds on to the which gives a unique positioning to the product. Like when we talk about a product like lipstick, or let's say any normal product, a face wash or something, then it is just a commodity in our mind. But when we associate a brand to it, like when we associate names like Garnier, L'Oreal to it, it adds a premiumness to the product. So that's what a brand does to a product. It gives a unique positioning to the product. That's what I think.
Which means it's a value proposition in the customer's mind. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it adds a perception of the customers, perception to
Good.
the customers.
Right. So, good. Ashish?
Sir, brand is basically a stamp of quality or a commodity.
So it's an assurance. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
See, remember one thing, both Ritika, Ashish, everybody else, always define anything in marketing is to be defined from a customer's viewpoint. So stamp of quality is a producer's viewpoint. Am I right, Ashish? So, but a stamp of
Yes.
quality for what purpose? You look at it from the customer's point of view. Have I answered the question, Ashish? Right?
Yes.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. You're saying the absolutely correct thing, but you're saying it from a producer's viewpoint, right, Ashish? Right? Okay, Kingshuk.
Sir, it's a named identification of a company or a product.
Okay, carry on. Build on that.
So
Named
like how
identification
the
meaning? Go ahead.
means how the customer perceive that, and what kind of means what I would say like value it gives to him. So
Fair.
on lines of that.
So I think most of you have given pretty good definitions. So to summarize all your definitions, you have said a brand is something which is distinct from others, is what Ritika mentioned. So it's different from a commodity because it adds some value, and the value was mentioned by a number of people, and that value is what stays. Value, benefit, whatever you call it, is something which stays in the customer's mind, and therefore the customer, it becomes popular, as somebody said, because the customer sees some value in it, right? That is what a brand is. So now that's a very good definition, but this is a definition from whose point of view? This definition which all of you have given, which is a very good definition, is from whose point of view? Yeah, Kingshuk?
So it's from the point of view of the customer.
Yes, and from the point of view of the brand manager, the marketing manager.
Yeah.
Am I right? That's the job of a
Yes.
marketing manager, to create some difference in the customer's mind. Right. Let me change the game. Right. Now, each one of you, I'm giving you a gift. I'm giving you 1,000 shares in Marico. Let's assume you have purchased 1,000 shares in Marico. One share of Marico is 400 rupees, which means you have invested 4 lakhs of your hard-earned money in Marico. So each one of you now is a shareholder in Marico. You with me? So which are the brands of Marico? What are the brands of Marico? Yes, Devashwit.
Sir, maybe Setweight, then Beardo, Livon.
Which is the biggest brand? Biggest brand of Marico. Yeah, Pratik.
So is it Parachute?
Parachute. Kingshuk?
I was telling the same, sir.
Parachute. Saffola. These are the big brands of Marico. Now, Pratik, can you raise your hand again? Now, Pratik, I'm asking you a question. You have invested 4 lakhs. You have 1,000 shares of Marico. You have 4 lakhs investment. आपका पैसा फंसा हुआ है Marico में. One of the brands is Parachute. Now tell me, Pratik, what is Parachute for you? Forget you're an MBA student. Talk like an investor. What is
Parachute as it's simply oil, coconut oil.
As an investor, what is Parachute for you?
As an
You have
investor.
invested 4 lakhs of your money in Marico. out of which one of the brands is Parachute. Now, for you, what is Parachute? The question is not just to Pratik, but the whole class. What is Parachute for you? Yeah, Ashish? Yeah, Ashish?
Sir, it's an asset for me.
Why?
Sir, because it has the ability to generate cash flow.
For you, it is something which earns you rokada, money. You are an investor. So remember, if Parachute sales goes up from 2,500 to 3,000 crores, you are happy because your investment, which you have put, share prices may go up, dividend may go up, profits may go up. So remember, a brand is viewed differently by different people, depending on what lens you're wearing. Yes, a brand is something which is differentiated in the consumer's mind to create a perceived value of superiority so that it is different from a commodity. It adds value and a value proposition which makes you loyal to the brand. That is a marketing man's definition. Now tell me, Pratik, are you interested in all this rubbish? Brand, color, logo, shogo, तुमसे क्या लेन देन है भैया? आपसे क्या लेन देन है? सेल्स बढ़ा कि कमा? मैंने अपना 4 लाख रुपए लगाया. So remember, from a shareholder's perspective, a brand is a asset because it is a generator of cash flows. And right throughout, when you discuss brands, keep two things in mind. The marketing man's perspective, which is differentiating and offering in the customer's mind. But keep in mind the larger objective, that it is an asset which generates cash flows for the shareholder. Never forget that. Now my next question. What does a brand manager do? Please raise your hand. What does a brand manager do? Yeah, Mahip?
Sir, a brand manager ensures that the proper quality is being given to the customers or target audiences, and also keeps a track of what other competitors are doing, and in the same manner improves the product.
Good. Ashish?
So they try to gauge whether the brand position they wanted to achieve is actually being perceived by the consumer or not, and if there is a need for repositioning.
Excellent. Yeah, Devashit.
Or maybe you would be more interested in knowing whether it is able to generate cash flow or not. If
Okay.
that brand is able to generate cash
So if the first two steps mentioned by Mahip and Ashish are being done properly, then what Debashit says will probably happen. The cash flows will come. All right. Good. I think three definitions are good. Let me give you a perspective. So let me ask you a question. Who started the department of brand management? Let me explain what I mean by this. In your first course on organization structure, you would have read about departments. So you see an organization structure which says sales department, legal department, HR department, IT department. So one particular company decided that they will put a new department, and the department was called brand management. Right? So my question to the class, who did this? In the sense, which was the company which said there are various departments, I will add one more department called brand management with its own cadre of people, own seniority, right? So my question to the class, which was the company which first did this? Create a separate department called brand management department. Guess? No money for guessing. Yeah, Mahip.
Maybe the Coca-Cola.
It's not Coca-Cola. Devashit?
maybe Ford.
No. It was a consumer product company. Guess. Yes, Ashish.
Sir, Unilever?
No. Unilever ka jani dushman. Who is the jani dushman of Unilever?
PNG.
Procter.
PNG, sir. Yeah.
Procter and Gamble was the first company which had a separate department called brand management department with a cadre. Like you have a cadre for HR, you have a cadre for sales. So you have a CMO, this, that. So he had a separate cadre called brand management. And then people ask them, why have you created another department? And they had a very simple answer to this question. They said, in a steel plant, look at a steel plant. In a steel plant, there is a blast furnace. What does the blast furnace do? Produce steel. So what does it produce for the shareholder? Cash. So insofar as a shareholder is concerned, for a Tata Steel shareholder, the most valuable object is the blast furnace. So वहां से मेरा steel निकलता है, steel से पैसा निकलता है. So for them, the asset is the blast furnace, and the asset therefore has a maintenance manager. What is the job of a maintenance manager? To ensure that the asset is in perfect tip-top condition, because वो asset में कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ तो मेरा shareholder का डामाडोल. Procter and Gamble said, "Bhaiya, I don't have blast furnaces. I don't have blast furnaces. For me, the cash flow generator is Camé, is Tide, is Whisper, is Ivory. These are my brands. They generate cash for the shareholder." And just as a steel plant has a maintenance manager for a tangible asset, we have maintenance managers for an intangible asset, doing exactly what Mahip had mentioned, and I think Ashish after that. Therefore, remember, brand management is a method by which you appoint a cadre of people who are the maintenance managers of an intangible asset. And just as the manager of a blast furnace of Tata Steel ensures that the blast furnace is working perfectly, you as a brand manager of Camé have to ensure that this asset, which is an intangible asset, is working perfectly. But the difference is the blast furnace is a physical object, which means it follows the laws of physics. So you know, if I press this button, this will happen. But the problem with the brand manager of Camé is, for Camé also, the decision regarding cash flows is made by a physical object, the customer. But a customer, you don't know what button to press. You have no idea what button to press. And therefore, you have to keep gathering data. कि customer सोच क्या रहा है? Has customers' moods changed? Have their preferences changed? Has their decision-making process changed? That is the job of a maintenance manager. So in short, a brand is viewed differently by different stakeholders, including the shareholder. So remember, whenever you look at brands, don't look at it only from the view of a marketing person. Yes, look at it from the point of view of a shareholder. And a shareholder, as I asked Pratik, if you're a shareholder of Marico, आपसे differentiation से लेन देन नहीं है भैया. Parachute का sales अच्छा चल रहा है कि नहीं, profit अच्छा हो रहा है कि नहीं. And please remember, a brand is an asset which generates cash flows for the shareholder. Now, and what is brand management? Brand management is a recognition that all brands are assets, and like other tangible assets, require maintenance. So just as a steel plant has a maintenance manager for the blast furnace, Procter & Gamble has a brand manager for CAME, because CAME is an asset which generates cash flows. So that was module number 1, and let's just try and understand what was the coverage in module number 1. In this module, we tried to understand what exactly is a brand. You and me as consumers, the moment a brand is mentioned, a brand name is mentioned, there are a certain set of associations, images, and attributes which come to your mind and my mind. And these images, attributes, and associations add up to some kind of a value proposition. So for you and me as consumers, a brand is a set of associations, images, and attributes. And the job of a marketing person is to create these images, associations, and attributes so as to create a value proposition in our mind. That's a brand defined from the point of view of a consumer or a marketing person. But if you change the lens, and the lens becomes that of a shareholder. So if you and I are now shareholders of Marico, one of the brands of Marico is Parachute, then a perspective changes. A brand no longer becomes a set of attributes and associations. I mean, we don't care whether Parachute is packaged blue, green, or red, and what are the associations which the customer has. For us, these are means to a greater end, and that end is, does it generate enough cash flows for us? So for a shareholder, a brand is an asset, a cash flow generator, what an accountant will call an intangible asset. That's the perspective which we need to keep right throughout this course, that of the market, the lens of the marketing person and the consumer, and the lens of the shareholder. That is what a brand is. We also looked at what a brand manager does. What we did look at was who started the concept of brand management, just Procter & Gamble, and what is the philosophy behind it. The philosophy is very simple. If you look at a steel plant, they have a tangible asset like a blast furnace. And the blast furnace has a manager in charge of maintenance, or an army of people, or a team of people in charge of maintenance. Why do we need a maintenance staff there? Because the blast furnace is the cash flow generator for a steel plant. For a company like Procter & Gamble, which started this, they have no blast furnace which generates cash flows. For them, the cash flow generators are their own brands, the Cames and the Tides and the Ivories. So those are the cash flow generators. And what Procter & Gamble said, that if a blast furnace can have a maintenance team, there's no reason why an intangible asset can't have a maintenance team. So in a sense, a brand manager is a maintenance manager of an intangible asset. That was the coverage in module number 1. Let's look at what we'll cover in module 2. Towards the end, what we did see was that the difference between the maintenance manager of a steel plant is that he or she is managing a tangible asset, which means if you press a particular button, it's a physical object. So if you press this button, this is the likely outcome. If you press that button, that is a likely outcome. So that's fairly predictable. But when you have the maintenance manager of an intangible asset, which is a brand, the object buying it is a physical object, the customer, but you don't know what button to press. And if you have to know what button needs to be pressed, you have to have a pretty accurate need identification process. So as a brand manager, the important thing to note is we have to be conversant with diagnosing the exact need of customers, and it's easier said than done. In module number 2, we will start the process of need identification. That will be the coverage for module number 2. See you there. Thank you very much.